Hello everyone, once again, welcome to my YouTube channel. It's Reviving Destinies. Here we revive destinies. So in this video, I'm going to speak about African Day. We know that we have a day called African Day, which we are celebrating into this time. So that's what I'm going to talk about. Most of people, when they speak about African Day, they mostly focus on the heritage. I'm just going to touch a bit about the heritage passing by, but it's not my core of my topic today. We cannot emphasize the issue of heritage, me being a Pegi man, Pegi African man, someone being a Xhosa or a Zulu man, or all those things, while we have issues of African people. Those things, yes, we should emphasize them, but let's not shift our focus to the major problems of Africa and African people wherever they are, whether they are in Europe, Asia, America, every part of the world, even in Australia. So that's what I'm going to talk about. So we know that African people, they are in bondage. Somebody can argue that they are in bondage caused by other African people. It can still be true, or they are in bondage caused by history, which is true. But the African people, the truth of the matter is they are in a serious bondage as we are speaking. I'm just going to split some few facts about Africa before I can touch a few points which like I just drafted down, so that like I just wanted to make sure that I become orderly. So we know that in America the population of black people, African Americans, is 14%, around 14%. But when you look at the prisoners in America, 80% of the population. We cannot run away from the fact that yes, there are those who are indeed committing those crimes. But you can see that that is just a racial bondage, which we need to address. How can 80% of the population be the prisoners of a country which they are only consist of the 14% of the population? We have seen like the allegation of where a young boy was falsely accused of rape, sentenced to death with electric thing, which incidents which happened in America. We know that in America we have seen many reports where the police were killing African Americans. We have seen several reports of that. Coming to Africa, that where like the majority of black people are, is their continent. But that's where you will find the things which will melt your heart, starting from South Africa where I am up until Egypt, from Morocco to Madagascar. Africans, wherever they are suffering, they are in bondage. Major concern is poverty, which I'm just going to touch specifically addressing it, but I just want to touch some major things. African people, they are in bondage, bondage of poverty, bondage of tribalism, bondage of terrorism, bondage of the rebels, all the manner of bondages which you can count in our continent, and they really need some serious addressing. So here in South Africa, black people are like more than 70% of the population, but the majority of them, they still live below poverty line. It is recorded that 2/3 of the population live in the poverty line, and most of those things, from that 2/3 of the population, 90% of them are black people. We cannot run away from the fact that yes, we have white squatter camps in South Africa. We have other races which are still struggling in South Africa. But black people, having been the majority of the population, African people, they are in a serious bondage. Even if you can look at the squatter camps in the cities, they are congested with black people. Poverty is a poverty. It needs to be fought with, regardless of whether it's a strike, white people, black people, Indian people. But poverty needs a serious attention. But since it's an African Day, I'm just going to emphasize about how bonded African people they are in the continent. So that's the thing, like from that list of things which I just wrote is to emphasize the division of black people. The division of black people can manifest itself in a different way. We can be tribalism. In South Africa, we don't experience much of tribal cases. Countries like Democratic Republic of Congo, that's where tribalism is still an issue. When we know that there are certain histories which days black people, they are all from Central Africa, they moved around other part of Africa, fleeing, migrating from persecutions and all those tribal killings which were happening. I'm not sure whether the history is true or false, but now as we are speaking, which we know, Democratic Republic of Congo, countries like Congo, they are still threatened with tribal killings. Poverty is almost everywhere in Africa, starting from here in South Africa. I know that some African people label South Africa as a rich country. Trust me, South Africa is very poor. There is poverty in South Africa. Don't just let those pictures of oceans where they shoot those high income residential areas and post them on the media and think that South Africa is rich. Majority of population in South Africa, they still live below poverty line. That is an oppression of African people. Yes, we have to emphasize heritage, but we cannot like try to run away from the major problems. Right now, having said that poverty is a major concern, it's like the big name for Africa. Whenever we think of Africa, we think of poverty. Not saying other continents don't have poverty. Not saying they are not people who are not wealthy in South Africa or in other part of Africa. But in every African country, if you can look at the majority of the population of those countries, they are still poor. Those ones who are rich, if you can go to countries like Zimbabwe, you'll find that it's just 9% of the population who are surviving. The countries, more than 80% are still unemployed, whereas in South Africa it's 33% of unemployment. But those who are, majority of those who are employed, they still work the retail jobs, they still work the jobs which pay them less than 5,000 per month, less than 10,000 per month. Jobs like working in the shops, those are still bondages. Even in South Africa, people who are rich, like they are just less than 10% of the population, whereas poverty is still the major concern. Now let me speak about some of the causes of poverty. I know poverty is caused by lots of things, but now I'm just going to touch major concern of poverty. Specifically, let me start from where I am. I will give an example of South Africa, which I am in. So South Africa, one of the reasons of poverty, not saying it's a closed list, but there are many. The inequality in South Africa, the distribution of resources. South Africa is not only poor because of insufficiencies, poor because the distribution is very bad. This is caused by the mark of colonization, starting from 1652, the mark of apartheid, which segregated people and only minority were benefiting. Then that mark of apartheid is still existing even today. The apartheid legacy still exists in South Africa. Now it's just that it doesn't manifest itself in the form of race. It manifests itself in the form of class. The government sector are those who are holding jobs. The private sector are the biggest, they are the biggest economic controllers of our country. Then also the government sectors has led like the public sector, and those are the major concern of poverty. Then another thing which I cannot forbid is the foreign investment in South Africa, which just came to milk resources and leave our country. Those are the realities of South Africa. So those are where the wealth of the country are being shared to. They go, some section go to the private sector, the major section, then some major section go to public sector, then another section go to the foreign investment. Then they leave the majority of the population poor. So, and another thing is the issues like state capture. Those are issues which perpetuate that poverty. Issues like corruption, capitalism, I've already talked about it, and I've even shared about it in other videos. Then another major factor of poverty, another major contributor of poverty in South Africa and in an African continent in a nutshell, is that global determination, the global system, the global north-south line divide. When we say north and south line, we are not necessarily mean countries which are in the southern hemisphere, they are poor. Australia is in the southern hemisphere, but it's a developed country. Yeah, I'm just setting it as an example. Mexico is in the northern hemisphere, but it's very poor. Countries like Pakistan, Sri Lanka, they are in the northern hemisphere, but they are poor. They are classified as poor. So the north and south line divide is just the line which divides rich countries and poor countries, not people, countries. Africa is in the southern line of divide because it's poor. South America in a nutshell, Mexico in a nutshell, like I said, Sri Lanka and other countries, they are poor. Indonesia, they are poor countries. Then countries which are in the north line of the divide, countries, European Union, Canada, America, countries like Spain, Denmark, Turkey, England, Norway, and many countries. Those are the countries which are in the north part of the north and south line divide, because the ones who are in the north line, they are the ones who are rich and which are benefiting from everything, from the system of the world, the global system of poor and rich divide. What caused that north and rich line divide? The problem started in the past, and that problem haven't adjusted. We failed to rise African presidents which will challenge those systems. Remember, many countries in Europe, they once sent their armies to different parts of the world to seek for minerals and other things which were strategic. And they had military superiority as their advantages. Those things, that benefit of the past happened generationally, and it was never been cutted at all, because African presidents, whenever they get into power, they just get there to steal. The only way, I'm just going to speak about the solution. Let me just touch about that system in detail. Those countries which I'm just labeled, Canada and many countries, mostly they benefit from the imbalanced trade which is happening between poor countries and rich countries. Mostly them, they are more industrialized. So majority of poor countries, they export their natural resources. The likes of Ethiopia exporting coffee, South Africa exporting chrome, diamond, and all those countries, and also countries like Namibia, they are exporting them raw as they are, mining them. And also there are some mines in Africa which are just mined by foreigners. When I mean foreigners, I mean the European and American unions. Straight, they are just mined by foreigners, but there are those who are mined by the local, but they still take them to Britain, take them to China, take them to America. Those things, when they are being transformed and they turn back to our country, they sell them with a price which is far more than the price of the one which they bought at. Those are the imbalanced trade which happen between our continent and also those rich countries. Then the other major factors are those global system is also perpetuated by African people. For example, African people who are good in soccer, they go to Europe, more especially England, to play for those countries and make their leagues more competitive. And as they make their leagues more competitive, everyone around the world watch those leagues and they have like those strong world support. Music, everyone watch international gospel. Dramas, everyone watch American dramas, European dramas. That's how that system is being strengthened. I'm not saying the ones of music and all those things are the close, are like the major things. It's like what strengthened that system which was created in the past. Then that system is being fueled into this generation. The only way to rise people who are bounded out of poverty, it is to kill that system. Rise African presidents, rise the great politics along all the African countries. Trust me, we cannot liberate South Africa or Zimbabwe or Mozambique without liberating Africans. The only way that is going to happen is when all those African countries have good politics. Then that good politics take great decisions which will perpetuate good structural industrial sectors. Then whenever there are great industrial structural sectors, for example, there is great industrializations, great skills, technological skills from all the sectors of the skills. Whenever black people or Africans in Africa mine those resources, they will transform those resources for themselves and have no need to take them to those countries. And also whenever our countries, they are well developed or they are better, we won't have a need to take players to Europe, have people migrating, people with skills to leave our continent, to go to Australia and go and make Australia a great country, to go and leave our countries and go to Europe, go to Canada, go to America. Why? Because there will be better jobs to serve them, better salaries. Trust me, most of countries in Europe, they earn the wage per week, and the amount of money which they earn per week can pay many people, can pay companies, not just individual, which is just earned by one person. So that's the truth of the matter about our country and about our continent. So those people, they are great earners. Then another thing which I forgot is that currency imbalance. The fact that countries like Britain, they have a British pound, and that British pound is 18 or 20 times more than rand. Countries like America, dollar is 16 or 15 times more than rand. Those are the major beneficiaries of those European, American countries. Currencies like euro, which is 16, 17 times more than rand. So the only way to do those things, just that now I don't want to go deeper with matters, is to make sure that we are going to say, let's liberate African people. In the trade sector, input and export, let us find the balance, the fair trade. And trade which is not fair, let it be restricted. To the side of engineering sector, we should have the great sectors. To the side of the sciences sector, we should have the great scientists, which will be beneficial for our country. Agricultural sector, all the section of the country should just be strong, competitive, fair, and have high paying salaries. Those are the issues which whenever we speak about the liberation of African people, we should talk about. Not going to SAPC to emphasize the fact that I am a Pegi man, I am a Swana man, I am a Soto man, I am a Zulu man. We will talk about those things whenever we achieve liberation and true liberation. And get this clear, we don't make this video to go and hate the people, we don't say go and hate America, go and hate Africans. We should love ourselves, unite, love those people, but make sure that we liberate ourselves from those bondages. I will just end my video there. Please don't forget to subscribe, click the notification button, like the video, comment if you want to comment. Let me see you on the next video. Shalom.